Hi, this is a sew-along tutorial for my pattern, Juliet. Juliet is a 2-in-1 pattern that can be made into a dress or a 2-piece set. But today, I will show you how to make it as a dress. This dress has a sweetheart neckline and a princess cut seam for a flattering fit. It also features a lovely flare sleeves and an A-line skirt with 3 different lengths. For this pattern, it is best to use light to medium weight woven fabric. Here, I use a satin fabric to achieve more elegant fancy look that is perfect for a wedding guest dress. After make this dress, you'll learn how to fully line a dress, installing invisible zipper on, do baby hem on the curved edge, and basically, you'll upgrade your sewing skill. So, get the pattern in the description box down below and let's begin. After I cut all the pattern, I went to interface the main bodice. But this is an optional step if you are using a slippery fabric like mine. This is the knot tie strip for the back. Here I'm folding it right side facing and stitch about half centimeter away from the folded edge. Cut the seam allowance slightly and turn them right side up. Then you have to give it a nice press. Moving on to the bodice, I pin the side front piece to the center, placing them right side facing. Then sew along here. It will end up to look like this. Now I clip the curved bust area to relax the princess seam. Now for the back, I basically do the same as the front. Then I join the back to the front bodice at the shoulder seam like so, and press all the seam open. Here I've done the same to the lining. Now I'm placing the knot ties at the back bodice like so. Then stitch it in place. Then I sandwich it with the bodice lining. Place it right side facing with the main bodice. Pin them at the neckline and match the shoulder seam. Sew along the neckline but leave 2.5 cm unsewn at the center back like so. This is for installing the invisible zipper later on. After that, I'm clipping the sweetheart neckline and make a V-shaped notch at each corner. It needs to be done to eliminate the bulk and create a smooth outer edge while maintaining the curved shape. Then I understitch along the neckline. Understitch is when the seam allowance is stitched to a lining about 1 mm away from the original seam line. After that, you have to give it a nice press along the neckline. I'm going to join the front and the back bodice at the side seam. To do that, lay the back of the main bodice on top of the front bodice and stitch at the side seam. Then I will do the same for the lining. After that, you have to press open the seam allowance. Next step is to work with the skirt panel. I finish all the raw edge using a serger or a zigzag stitch. Then join all the dart and join them at the side seam with right side facing. Don't forget to press open all the seam allowance after you sew, and press all the dart toward the center, so the front dart press to the center front and the back dart to the center back skirt. I went ahead and do the same for the lining. Now it's time to join the bodice to the skirt at the waistline. Lay the bodice on top of the skirt right side facing. Pin and match all the body seam to the corresponding skirt seam. And sew them at the waistline. Then I also do the same to the lining. This is what it should look like attached. Now I'm going to install the invisible zipper. But before that, I'm pinning the center back seam and match all the seam together all the way down to the hem. Then I mark 47 cm from the upper bodice down. This mark will be the invisible zipper endpoint. I will start sewing a basting stitch from the upper back bodice to the mark, then back stitch and continue with a regular stitch down to the hem. Now press the seam allowance open, then align the zipper teeth opening to the center back seam. Next, I'm pinning and hand base the zipper to the seam allowance only to secure it in place. Here I am removing the basting stitch above the zipper endpoint, then unzip the zipper all the way to the end. Sew the zipper from the upper bodice to the mark we made earlier. Try to stitch as close as you can to the zipper teeth. After stitching on both sides, you will have something that looks like this. And we are done with the zipper. Now, line up the center back of the lining together and mark 47 cm from the upper bodice down. This mark will also be the zipper endpoint from the inside garment. Then I continue to pin and stitch from the mark down to the hem. And press. Here you can see if I unzip the zipper, the lining is still unattached and the seam allowance is still showing. I will finish the center back seam allowance here by sandwich it with the lining. To do so, I turn the wrong side out and place the center back lining on top of its corresponding main fabric. And stitch as far as I can for both sides. Then roll hem the skirt by folding over twice and stitch. Next is to assemble the sleeve to the dress. Before that, I will secure the raw edges with baby hem. To do that, you need to slightly fold the edge to the wrong side about 0.3 mm and stitch very close to the edge. Then cut the excess fabric close to the stitching line. Fold again and stitch on top of the previous stitching line. You need to stay stitch the bodice armhole so the shell and the lining stay in place when sewing the sleeves. Now working with the bodice facing up, place and pin the notch on the sleeves at the shoulder seam right side together and stitch around the armhole. The last step is to finish the armhole with a serger or a small zigzag stitch. Then we are done. I hope you enjoy making this as much as I do, and in the next video I will show you how to sew the Juliet pattern as a set. So don't forget to like and subscribe for more sew along tutorial. Bye bye!